Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet SkyFF, the world where everything revolves around £50,000. My name's Such.
And my name is James.
Another week.
Another further away from $1.
Another shit week.
$50,000.
But I think it was bad across the board for a lot of managers this week. It didn't feel like anybody was popping off and doing particularly well, unless you maybe had a quite a differential captain. I ended the week on 77 points, James. I don't know if that's good, bad, or not really.
It's not great. It's 2 points. It's 2 points more than me.
50,000 for the week. So what should we be looking at for it? Like, you know, if we say in FPL, if you finish inside the top million game week rank for the whole season, you'll win the game. Is there a number that you think, like, consistently, if you're above this game week rank for Sky?
Wow.
Maybe 100k, 50k?
No idea. I think more like in terms of average score per match week. And when I say match week, I mean averaging across 38 match weeks. I would think more about you want to be at, I guess, 90 to 95 probably, I think. Because then you've got, on average, probably 3 captains a game week or so. 90 to 95 as an average or so. So what have you got in the first 3 game weeks?
250 points.
So you're at, what, 73 or so?
With no transfers used so far.
Yep, true. I'm on 269. So, yeah, I mean, it's not enough either. No. But there's going to be weeks where because there's, 4 captains and stuff like that, where you'll be in sort of 110, 120 and stuff and average it out. So, yeah, look, that's not a great game week.
No, I mean, it's interesting. I look at my team and everybody bar Moise Caicedo returned a tier point of some sort, but everything was tinged with a little bit of shit with it, basically. So David Raya saved tier 2, but conceded 2 goals, so it's only 2 points. Nico Williams tackled tier 2, but a yellow card. Cancelo, he got a tier point, yellow card, and concedes 2, so downgraded. Van Dijk got me a passing tier 2, but conceded 2 goals. The only one who's pretty decent was Eric Dyer. Clean sheet and passing tier 1. Rodri, actually, to be honest, cheeky little assist and a passing tier.
Well over 100 passes.
Yeah. Paulinho, goal.
Yes.
Salah captain.
And tackle tier, Paulinho.
Yeah, he was a decent 9-pointer, but only Haaland without captaincy got into double digits for me with 10 points. No, sorry, that was with a captaincy. So I had Haaland, Salah, and Jesus. So Jesus, Haaland, and Salah as my captains. Yep. They were just average, really. But all of these guys picked up a tier point or something, but they just didn't go off particularly big. And so 77 points feels a bit of a letdown. But I did make one transfer, which is I had to sell Romero, obviously, and I moved to Caicedo for the West Ham game, down to a budget enabler, and it leaves me 1.2 in the bank to try and attack in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
So what are you going to do? Stop waiting.
Salah to Son on Sunday and captain Son, and I'll probably captain Son against Fulham as well. In a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So
Salah to Son is move number 1. I'm going to move off David Raya to Sanchez for a 3-for-1.
You're going to move goalkeepers for a 3-for-1?
Yeah, man.
You ain't going to have a captaincy in there, surely.
Nope.
What's the point in that, mate?
Oh, what else am I doing?
Don't do anything. Don't do something for the sake of doing something.
Yeah, I think there's points to be had there, though, with Brighton's run. I want to. I need to find a way into Leicester Man United, which I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do with that. And I haven't got any Chelsea coverage. I feel like we talked for a while that there was need for Chelsea coverage for captaincy.
Yep.
Which day is that? Fulham
next Tuesday. They go to Southampton. So who you captain next Tuesday? Fixtures you've got are Crystal Palace versus Brentford, Fulham versus Brighton, Leeds versus Everton, Southampton versus Chelsea.
My 2 choices would be David Raya or Caicedo. Caicedo, Fulham, it's not too bad.
I mean, Brentford haven't kept a clean sheet away from home in the Premier League since Wolves away last September. But, like, arguably at the moment, I would say just captain Raya.
Rather than buy a Chelsea player. But will Koulibaly still be suspended for that game?
Koulibaly only be suspended for the weekend. So I'm a Koulibaly owner. So
just hold.
Just hold, yep.
Yeah, there isn't massively any gains. That I've stared at the fixture planner spreadsheet a little bit, trying to find good gains. There isn't loads out there that's like very obvious at the moment. That's my kind of take on it. But I definitely think coming up after this Saturday, I've got no intention to captain Salah in the Newcastle or Everton games, which means moving to Son, who I will captain for the Forest and Fulham games, is effectively a 5 for 2. It's worth it for me. And if I want to go back to Salah for the Wolves game, I can. But then it's a big gap till Chelsea and then Brighton. So I may go without Salah for quite a while, you know.
Be brave.
I mean, I've got Van Dijk sitting there as Liverpool coverage, should I want to.
Salah / Haaland, De Bruyne to Son / Kane on Sunday will be quite popular. The problem is this hokey-cokey with moving between the premiums. This is what we've discussed. It basically ends this Sunday. Yes, you can go into Tottenham on Sunday and buy Kane or Son, for example, and that's probably the best captaincy shout on Sunday. It's probably Kane over Son at the moment, in my opinion. But then how do you go back? Because then they're always playing on the same day. This is what we discussed. This is the end of it. So looking further ahead at City, Liverpool, Tottenham as those three teams, the next time that one of them doesn't play on the same day is going into match week 8. And essentially we're about to go into match week 4. Match week 8, Liverpool play on Sunday the 18th against Chelsea away.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I'm not concerned about moving on the same day. Like, you've got Man City away, they've got Wolves at home. I'd make that move on that day if I thought that Salah was going to outscore Son, for example.
But then looking ahead, just to use Salah as the example, because you're using him, it's about, I'll go without him. I'd pencil him at the moment is I would want to captain a Man City player against Nottingham Forest on Wednesday night, but it's subject to team. Then following that, to get to see that Salah's playing against Everton, I wouldn't look beyond that personally, rather than Tottenham at home to Fulham. Just captain Salah at Everton. The week after, Saturday the 10th of September, you've got Liverpool at home to Wolves, City at home to Tottenham. Arguably, that's Salah again. So, my route at the moment is probably going without Tottenham. But I certainly accept there are gains to be had with this 3 fixtures, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. The caution of that is as well, and I think having had a deeper look last night, I think Tottenham probably will play on the Tuesday in the Champions League after Fulham. I don't think Son plays all 3 of the league games. I could see him missing Fulham.
Forest, West Ham, Fulham.
I could see him missing Fulham if Tottenham play in the Champions League on the
Then that
Tuesday.
makes, say I captain him against Forest, he plays against West Ham. If he was to miss that game, you're not the early kickoff, are you?
No, but 3 o'clock.
Yeah, so even worse to know what the team is.
But we're kind of getting leaks on Tottenham teams at the moment, which are accurate currently. Yeah. So probably from a Sky perspective, at least, you probably will have a good indication of if Son / Kane. I don't even think it's impossible that Kane could miss the Fulham game. Richarlison's going to get some. I think Richarlison will start against Fulham.
What did your team do? You happy with your team, or did you make any transfers, or?
I made 1 transfer this week. I got 75, not great. So 3 from Alisson, Cancelo 4-pointer, De Bruyne 7-pointer, Eric Dyer 9, Koulibaly -3, João Paulinho 9, Bruno Guimaraes 3, Jorginho 2, Salah 16 Monday night. I captained Jesus on Saturday for 8. Not great at all. The Romero replacement part saved my game week, mate. I bought William Saliba for a 17-pointer, which is really good. I feel like I'm only probably about 4 moves away from ideal team. But I feel like I should have been in there earlier because the movement of doing it between the Tottenham, City, Liverpool players is quite difficult now. I think I know that the where I visualise the setup now is, say I keep Alisson, Cancelo as a premium defender to go with Saliba, I think, staying in at the moment. Romero when he's back for Tottenham, although it might be that wants to wait for a while, because actually, if Romero's not back for this weekend, where you get back in is quite difficult, and the fixtures aren't great. Beyond the next three, Tottenham's fixtures after Fulham,
City, Brighton and Arsenal,
Leicester at home's decent, Arsenal away, Brighton away. I mean, you've got City, Arsenal and Brighton away 3 out of 4. And we're talking about a defensive player here. So there's not passing tiers in those fixtures. There's unlikely to be clean sheets. Are you desperate to fire back? No. Fofana, we're all keeping an eye on the Fofana situation, aren't we? 7.5. If he goes to Chelsea, as I said to you, as and when that happens, I'd just Koulibaly down to Fofana straight away. Forget the fixture game. Just put the 1.8 million in the bank, I think. 2 budget midfielders, Jesus, and then premiums from now, as in attacking players. So that would allow Haaland, Salah and Kane, for example. That's where I visualise trying to get to from a team setup. There's a few moves to make that happen, and there's a few players that are obviously expendable as part of that, namely Bruno Guimaraes, who, yes, ticks over, but doesn't look like hauling particularly at the moment. And there are other players cheaper that are ticking over, i.e. some of these enablers. Jorginho's obviously expendable. Jorginho is probably first on the chopping block. I moved fucking Jorginho in for Rashford, didn't I? There's another one. Couldn't wait to get Rashford in. Couldn't wait to get him out. Sometimes you're better off doing nothing. But Jorginho was also part choice in terms of making sure I had a secondary option for Chelsea in case Koulibaly didn't play against Southampton. The fact that he's now suspended for Leicester makes him almost certain to play against Southampton, and he'll be my captain next Tuesday. So next move for me, if I don't go in for Son or Kane this Sunday, which I don't think I will, but subject to fitness over the weekend, I've got De Bruyne. Say De Bruyne gets injured Saturday, I'm going to pull the trigger and buy probably Kane on the Sunday, to be honest. Other than that, it's probably no move for me till probably Leicester, Manchester United next Thursday.
Have you given thought to what you want to do with that? There's quite a few 3-for-1s and 4-for-1s. We've had chatting with some of the patrons in Slack yesterday. If anyone's interested in a nice little group to bounce ideas off, like Jesus to Maddison gives you a 3-for-1, or a couple of other moves there that might work. Chelsea, I think, is a good 2-for-1, 3-for-1 there.
Yeah, with Leicester, obviously the entry point's on the day. So you've got Manchester United away on the Thursday night, then you've got Brighton on the Sunday, you've got Villa the Saturday afterwards. It's 3-for-1 over a lot of teams, which, yes, includes Arsenal, for example. There's also, if you look further afield, there's gains to be had even on Manchester City. So if you're sitting maybe 3 Man City, for example, maybe just pulling one out for Maddison is the sort of thing I might consider. If you look further ahead, the idea was probably to come off for the Villa fixture on Saturday the 10th, bearing in mind there'll be 3-for-1s then on Leicester. And you could chain this, so you could take the 3 Leicester games, come off, and then go back on Monday the 3rd of October, where they then come into a really nice set of fixtures, which starts with Nottingham Forest on Monday, October the 3rd. Then it's Bournemouth, Palace at home, Leeds at home, Wolves away. Good run of fixtures, actually. So I think from a setup perspective, a Leicester player makes more sense. That said, you can obviously go in for someone like Marcus Rashford if you want, particularly bearing in mind there's a case to say get Leicester, sell Leicester, get back to Leicester. So, to be honest, where I'm at with it at the moment, the one I'm considering is Wilfred Ndidi, just to tick it over and have that as the choice as the kind of second enabler to free up money as well. He's 6.9, Wilfred Ndidi. Tackle bonus at the weekend. There's no speculation about him leaving currently. That's around other players. He's certainly first choice every week when he plays. I don't think that's in doubt now with no European football. So Wilfred Ndidi, I think, is an interesting one. We haven't really spoken about in this kind of bracket of Paulinia's, Lewis O'Brien's, Casado's, Boubacar Kamara, Aston Villa. Ndidi at 6.9 is the one I'm considering. And then obviously from that perspective, for me, he goes in, he stays. Unless something obviously happens for him. That's where I'm leaning at the moment. I think for the big hitting players, Maddison's the call. 9.3 is set at an awkward price at the moment. I feel like most people are probably going to have to take like a City, Liverpool or Tottenham player out to make that happen.
Yeah, for me, I've got Rodri sitting there and it's 9-1 and I'll have the money. So Rodri to Maddison makes sense for me. Rodri I like, right? He's a real steady player, ticking the points along. And I want to find a way of getting back to Rodri at some point. But the 3-for-1 on an attacking asset like Maddison, including the captaincy, means it's definitely a transfer worth doing. So I think Rodri's the one that's the chopping block for me for Man City. I've got Nico Williams sitting here for Nottingham Forest. And they've got Everton at the weekend, but then they've got you and City.
Well, Everton's gone, mate.
Oh, sorry. They've got you and then City.
Yeah. Stomach it, mate.
Yeah, exactly that, because I want him for captaincy for Leeds and Fulham. So Nico Williams, actually, I could get fixture gains on from certain players if I missed their Bournemouth game. But I feel like he's one that I'm just going to stomach for the moment. So I can't see him moving on. Even Paulinho, one of my cheapies, I can't see any reason to want to move him on potentially, although their fixtures get quite difficult, or they're in a very difficult run. Arsenal,
for Paulinho,
Brighton,
mate.
Tottenham, Chelsea. But if there's a gain to be had somewhere where I can make up points, right? Ultimately, it is about points, not just using your transfers.
But what are you expecting at that value to gain?
Depends where I can go.
Once you've got the right enabler in, if you've got the right enabler in, fuck it, forget it, leave it. Honestly. Move around the bigger players where you can actually get the value out of the transfers. Let's say you've got a Caicedo over Paulinho 3-for-1 example. What are you expecting? What's the best case scenario? Okay, Caicedo hits tackle tier in all 3 games, hits passing tier once, and Paulinho blanks in his game. So what are you up, 12, 13 points? Is it worth it?
Probably not.
No, it's not, mate.
Probably not.
If you've got the right enabler, leave it.
Yep.
Jump around your other players at more expensive where you can go, okay, let's just say you were sitting there with Tim Ream, for example, and you want to buy in Lewis Dunk. Okay, yes, the passing numbers are down for Brighton, but the potential there is far greater with a clean sheet potential, possible passing, possible goal scoring threat even from set pieces as well. So once you've got the right enabler, and at the moment Paulinho looks like he's it, leave that. Yeah, fixtures are relevant for a tackle monster like that.
Yep. Okie dokie. Should we talk about captaincy for this weekend coming up?
Yeah, we can. Then I'll do some bits on the games, and then we can do some questions.
Sure.
Captaincy. I mean, we'll probably go into next Thursday as well, can't we, Suj? I think Salah Saturday, I think is a standout choice personally. There are obvious alternatives: Manchester City at home to Crystal Palace and Jesus at home to Fulham. But I think if you've got Mo Salah, despite Liverpool's form at the moment, I think that's where you're going, isn't it, Suj?
Yeah, it is indeed.
Yeah. Sunday, Spurs are the standout. I think particularly considering West Ham's lack of goals at the moment. There are interesting options. Like I wouldn't, if you're only sitting there with a Bruno Guimaraes, or if you've gambled early on Mateus Nunes, who's interesting price at 7, I'd probably just go with it. Most people are going to captain Kane or Son this weekend. It's one I'm probably happy to take on, I think. I'll have a think. I think the one for me is if I think following the weekend De Bruyne doesn't play both Forest and Villa in City's following 2 games, then yes, I probably will move it. I can't really make the decision until I think this Champions League draw is so important. That's why I haven't overly thought about it. As I said, I think if Tottenham played a Tuesday, then I really think one off Son or Kane won't start against Fulham, would be my instinct. And I wouldn't even be surprised if that turns out to be Harry Kane. We spoke about this in pre-season, more from an FPL, but actually looking at that and going, yep, Tottenham at home to Fulham looks absolutely brilliant that day, but can we guarantee now that even Harry Kane would start? I mean, it's possible. It'd probably come down to what the recovery is after West Ham. Similar applies, not so much for De Bruyne, I think, but same thing. If City play on the Tuesday after they go to Villa on September the 3rd, Haaland's not playing Forest and Villa. He's just not playing both. Now, the Forest game is great because you will at least see the team, for example. But then if I was a Haaland owner and City are playing on that Tuesday in the Champions League and Tottenham aren't, then yes, I would move Haaland to Son or Kane. And I'd know that there are alternatives on that Wednesday night where you can take it on. You've got Liverpool against Newcastle. You've got Arsenal against Aston Villa. You've got Tottenham yourselves at West Ham. Presumably you've got maybe Cancelo or another Manchester City asset where you can take it on and take the gamble. I don't own Erling Haaland at the moment. That's possibly part of the influence for saying, no, I'm probably not going to go to a Tottenham player on Sunday. But I certainly won't rule it out. At the moment, slight preference would be with Kane over Son. Sonny's just not, I spoke about it on Monday's pod, it just doesn't feel like it's there at the moment. And Harry's returning.
Yeah. Tuesday night, like I said, I only have 2 options in Raya and Casado. If I don't go to Chelsea, which I'm unlikely to do, then I'll just captain Raya.
Yeah, I think he's probably one for usage. If you pick up a problem over the weekend, you probably go in, don't you?
Fix something, yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, arguably leave it, to be totally honest, because you're going to have some other teams that are then going to play twice, Wednesday and Saturday, before Chelsea then play West Ham.
Yeah.
You can then come back. I presume that West Ham fixture is going to stay on Sunday the 4th. This is part what makes me think Tottenham are going to play in the Champions League on Tuesday the 6th. I think they'll arrange it that way so Chelsea play on the Wednesday. Yeah, it doesn't mean Tottenham and Chelsea can't play on the same night, but because they're from the same city, there's every chance they'll be paired on opposite sides, correct. It's for me, it'd be Koulibaly. Very interestingly, he was about 3 passes off at the weekend and obviously got sent off with about 5 minutes to go. So he very nearly made it. He also got taken off at Everton. He was about to make it with 15 minutes to go as well. So on a different day, although they lost 3-0, he's potentially picking up 4 points or so at the, maybe not 4 points, 3 points at the weekend, for example. So Koulibaly, I think, for me at Southampton. I've got Jorginho as the backup. I've also got Paulinho that night. I mean, I would go Raya over Paulinho, so if that's what you're left with on Tuesday. Just the ceiling's a bit higher, isn't it?
Yep.
You can have a freak with Raya where he saves a penalty or something, can't you?
On the Wednesday, you going KDB because you don't own Haaland?
That's the current plan. Yeah, KDB at home to Forest. KDB's record in home games is a joke.
Yeah.
And that's part why I wanted him in was for these 2 upcoming fixtures. So KDB would be the preference. If you've got Haaland and he starts, then Haaland in that fixture you can't overlook.
Yeah, I've got Haaland, no KDB, so straightforward for me.
Yep.
And on the Thursday, obviously, is Leicester, Manchester United. For me at the moment, Rodri to Maddison is my current plan.
Yeah, I think Rodri, obviously Rashford is worth another serious look. It's the 12:30 game on the Saturday, so most of us will see that game again at the weekend. And I think a look on the likes of Rashford, because he looked back on it Monday night. It was the best he played for a long time. And that's part why I gambled him in the first place, was because 8.1 is a great price. And he's easier to get to. So for my setup, I've got Kamara and Jorginho. If I really like what I see from Rashford on Saturday, I could be sitting here this time next week saying, yeah, I'm very comfortably moving one of them to Rashford on the Thursday night, and then I'll come back for Leicester for the second one. It could even be that I'd buy both and go, right, I'm deciding, and Diddy's my enabler now. That's possibly the one I want. Timing might be right, and do Rashford as well as possible. But I think we'll go into more detail on Leicester Man United next Wednesday.
It's double game week. It's a double game week.
It's not a double game week, mate. Can't be having that stuff.
It's going to be some big gains to be made in the next week.
There are 5 game days and everyone plays twice. There you go.
Lovely jubbly. And next week, when you go into more detail, you'll be doing so with...
Luke Williams will be joining me, Mr. Disable, as many of you know. He's standing in for Suj next week. So
anyone that wants an actual proper good Sky conversation, you'll get it.
Actually get some expert opinion next Wednesday.
Expert indeed.
Just some things to pick out from the games at the weekend. Interesting from Tottenham Wolves, even Perisic, 13-pointer, tier 2 tackles, 5 tackles in the game. It's 8.4. You won't see, but we may have the tip-off whether for Sky if he's going to play on Sunday or not. And it's interesting. 8.4.
It's cheaper than Dyer and honestly, more expensive than Romero.
When the game was going to start, I was going to start with Romero, Dyer and Perisic. I was going to go for all of them at the start. My only thoughts are a little bit like what I said. Once you get through these next 3 for Tottenham, I don't really know if you really want the defensive guys in here, because of the fixtures that come after Fulham. City, Leicester, Arsenal, Brighton, those 4 don't smell great from a defensive perspective. And Romero's the one you'd like most because the tackle tiers will be there, whereas there won't be for Eric Dyer, for example. We don't know at the moment if Romero's going to be fit or not. I would say if I knew that he was going to be fit on Sunday, there's every chance I'd go back in for him because I know that I want him as longer term. And after the difficult fixtures, going back might not be so easy because I think you'd really want him for Tottenham against Everton on Saturday the 15th of October. But it is a Saturday game. Brighton play Brentford the day before. So it could be, if you time it right, where you go in for someone like a Lewis Dunk, who's a very similar price, that you then move that back onto Romero on Saturday the 15th of October when Tottenham play Everton. Similarly, if perhaps you've got a Brentford defensive placeholder like an Aaron Hickey or something, I would already be thinking in my mind, right, I want to go back to Romero Saturday the 15th of October, even though it's that far away. That's what I'd be thinking about. Mateus Nunes, as I said, is coming at 7.0. I know a few of our patrons gambled on him at the weekend. And interestingly, it was quick 3-for-1 for Wolves over quite a few teams. Obviously playing Newcastle on Sunday. If he's the one you fancy, I don't hate it. There are definitely worse price players at that price. He played as the most advanced of the midfield three. I didn't get the feeling off him there were going to be tears. But Tottenham's a very difficult game to judge. Let's have another proper look at him over these next couple. It might be one to come back to later on in the season. That said, Wolves don't have a second game in a game week, either play on a Sunday or a Wednesday after the Bournemouth game, till basically they play Leicester on October the 22nd. So I think if you do want to look at Wolves, you probably are looking at them this Sunday. I don't have that feeling for them at the moment.
No.
Ruben Neves, just interesting, 7.9, possibly a little bit expensive at the moment, but he has picked up tiers in all three of Wolves' first games so far, so he's another one very much ticking over. We spoke after Palace played Arsenal in game week 1 about would teams try and do something with Anderson about playing these direct balls. Interestingly, not only did Guehi have more passes than Anderson against Villa at the weekend, so did Tyreek Mitchell.
Wow.
So there is possibly a bit of a lean coming where teams are accepting that there's a distribution problem that people want to shut down on Palace's right side. It probably means as or when you want to look at Palace, and that's probably not for a while, but it might come around sort of Sunday the 11th of September. They play Manchester United at home. It might be that the choice when it comes around is Guehi over Anderson. But let's view that over the next few weeks. Kamara, who'd obviously hit passing in the first two, was expectedly well off it this week, down to 35 passes, but 7 tackles. So we've seen both sides now that there is a passer and a tackler in there. So he's at 6.8. I think he's a very, very reasonable one to consider an enabler at the moment. Entry point, arguably, this week. I think if I had to go in for the enabler this week now, because I spoke about it last week, maybe falling into, say, Lewis O'Brien, if the timing was right this week, I think I'd go Kamara over O'Brien. My take on Forest at the moment is they're still trying to do business, and there's players there like Remo Freuler, who we haven't even seen integrated into this team yet. And although I think O'Brien stays in, it feels like there's too many cooks there at the moment to know which one. And I'd rather take the view with Forest at the moment, take the extra games to assess it. Let's look again Monday the 12th for that Leeds fixture. If you've got something, I'd even like with Nico Williams, the timing says hold it really at the moment, because we're coming up towards that Leeds game. For those who don't own, I probably wouldn't be buying this week. I think let's wait for the Leeds game on Monday the 12th. That's my take at the moment anyway. From Everton Forest, 5 shots on target for Anthony Gordon, who is 7.8. I highlight that because he might be a Chelsea player by next Tuesday night. You never know.
No one will want him.
I mean, I don't see that transfer. I've done it to death already. Dean Henderson, 7 saves, 6.5 is decent. And as obviously you said, tier 2 tackles for Williams, 6.7. He's definitely in the running as a potential enabler. Absolutely. 5 shots on target for Mitrovic, who's 7.7 in the Fulham Brentford fixture. The problem with Fulham, as I highlighted last week, is entry points are really, really tough. I think Fulham are one you want to keep looking at, be it Paulinho or Mitrovic, in those scenarios where you have an injury comes up. Mitrovic, for example, could be a 7.7 placeholder for Romero at the kind of similar price, if you think about it like that. Paulinho, as we said, his tackles in the 3 games so far, 6, 3 and 4. So even the one he missed at Wolves, he had 3 tackles. So decent numbers. And obviously, he's a unit. He's going to be a threat from set pieces as seen at the weekend as well. And that's a little bonus. It was a shame that Norgard scored after Paulinho, I thought. I felt like if it had been the other way round, it would have almost been like a passing of the torch.
Well, Norgard hasn't got any tears this season.
No, but he scored at the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah, but he hasn't. But last year we had him because he was a tackle monster. This season, not a single tear yet.
I think he's a little expensive now
as well.
Yeah.
Say that, but then you look at Rodri and you're like, Rodri's 5 points a week, guaranteed. If Norgard was 5 points a week, guaranteed, it'd be a little cheaper.
It's not. You've got people that are a million less now than Norgard who are better options, frankly. Raya with 6 saves again, Serge is impressive. For Leicester, we've spoken about Maddison and Diddy. Just a note on Che Adams, 7.6. It's very unclear at the moment, despite him scoring twice at the weekend, kind of who's playing for Southampton and what even system they're playing in. So they're a real difficult look at the moment, Saints. There's not an entry point. Similar with Fulham, there's not an entry point for them for absolutely ages. You're looking at 16th of October, potentially. So Southampton not on mine, but Che Adams could move. He could move. But if he moves, I think Everton's the most likely destination, and that's off-putting immediately. From Bournemouth Arsenal, passing tears for Saliba and Gabriel, Suj, and comfortably so. More interesting, perhaps, for those who want to delve a bit deeper, the Bournemouth centre-backs in the 40s again, after doing similar at Manchester City the week before. Now, again, they've got the entry point is Wolves next Wednesday, and I don't think anyone's going there. If you're brave and you've spotted it, though, I'll tell you what, there's a little run and you can come off. There's loads of exit points if you decide you want to gamble it. So I think they might be one where, say your enabler gets injured Tuesday. I think for a lot of us, the enabler might be playing Tuesday, whether it's like Paulinho, Casado, for example. If you lose that player through injury or a professional foul, serious foul play, free game red card, for example, then when you look at the Wednesday and the enablers, you ain't going to want to go to Forest going to Man City. This doesn't feel right. It might be that you just look at it and go, timing for Bournemouth. Possibly. Sensei was taken off at half-time against Arsenal, but I think he might be the one.
Okay. He's new, wasn't he? First game.
Yeah. They've paid the money for him. I think he'll end up playing as essential. It's worth saying they changed system during the second half against Arsenal as well, and it was a little bit better moving from the back five. But I think Scott Parker is invested in playing the back five. And again, we saw with Tosin and Anderson at Fulham a couple of years ago that they weren't immune to getting passing tears despite being a struggling side. That might be the same here with Bournemouth as well. But I think it's only one if something happens to your enabler next Tuesday. From Leeds Chelsea, Aronson, Harrison, Rodrigo, all shots here 1. Aronson is 7.7. Jack Harrison is 7.8. Rodrigo is a forward at 7.4. We'd mentioned last week about Dominic Solanke owners maybe not having anywhere to go. Well, I think you'd look at that if he's ruled out again this weekend when obviously they go to Liverpool. How long Rodrigo stays in the team is debatable, but I think it will be for a little while. All I'd say with them is, I think you look at Everton at home next Tuesday, and I think if you're sitting there with a Rodrigo, you're probably thinking, I captain him at home to Everton. And I think that's absolutely fine, by the way. The way I'd look at it is it's not necessary at the moment to dive in. It's Brighton this weekend who have conceded, one own goal in their first 3 games and have a very good historical record against Leeds. After Everton, they go to Brentford. It's also a tougher game on paper than generally it looks. Then it's not till the Monday night the week after against Forest. So Leeds, I think, is more of a watching brief. You have to consider that there's a relevance between Forest and Leeds at the moment, because I think a lot of us have been looking at it going, because Forest played a Monday against Leeds and then the Friday against Fulham. 2 captaincies for want to buy the Fulham player. That said, if we get there and you don't fancy the Forest player, a lot of us will be sitting there with Paulinho or Kamara, who are playing on that same Friday night. So it might be that the entry is worth looking at a Leeds player, potentially. And if you look further ahead at Leeds fixtures after that, not terrible. You got United away afterwards, Villa at home, Crystal Palace away, Arsenal, Leicester, Fulham if you're looking further on. So it's a little bit midden. It's not fantastic, but it's not terrible either. I think Leeds are a serious watch over these next couple. I wouldn't overdo what we saw against Chelsea. That might be harder to replicate in easier fixtures, actually. Koulibaly, I mentioned, 57 passes, 6 minutes to go. So there's every chance he might have hit the pass until at the weekend. Thilo Kehrer has a price surge. He didn't when I looked last night, which means no one could buy him on Sunday. He's 7.3, I think he's come in at. Okay. 58 passes on Sunday. West Ham defenders don't really hit him.
No, but he the thing with him is he's 2-footed, so he's passing left and right. Like, he's very much like knock it sideways, this way, that way, this way, that way. So that doesn't surprise me at all. Like, people look to him because they know he's 2-footed and can go either way with it. All I can say is that he looked, when he came, I mean, he fucked up, right? He gave away the penalty. But other than that, he looked like a first-team player. He wasn't bought as a backup, but we've got some depth there. But he came in and I was like, if he's our centre-back for the rest of the season playing like that, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
So do you think he'll take over from like Ogbonna?
It's very hard to say. Okay. It's very hard to say. But I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised and I wouldn't be disappointed if it was, because he does look good on the ball and he is a passing player. He's good on the ball. So, yeah.
West Ham, presumably, will get through in the Conference League. You have a 3-1 lead going into the second game against Freiburg tomorrow night. I don't see you wetting the bed in that one. Obviously, should you go through, there are entry points majority of weeks for West Ham, Manchester United and Arsenal players, which means we never rushed into a decision on those three teams. I think Arsenal feels a little bit rushed because they're doing good and have got outstanding fixtures.
I'll be looking at Everton, mate, on the Sunday the 18th for West Ham. It's a bit of a way out, but I don't like, other than Villa, which are not going in that soon, I don't like Tottenham, Chelsea, Newcastle as next. I don't like those fixtures at all.
No, and if you look at that little run starting with Everton as well, Everton away, Wolves at home, Fulham at home, Southampton away, someone like Jared Bowen over that little stretch there, be a big differential. Yeah, I would have that earmarked as well, September the 18th. This is also round the period, obviously, once the Champions League has started and stuff, these games are so much more difficult to find because Champions League clubs often playing the Saturday, Europa League teams on the Sunday. Casado 3 tackles, so one off. That's what you want to see. If someone's not hitting it, it's always he hasn't hit it for ages. Is he close? Yeah, he's close. 3.
And the style of the game, you didn't need to, but I also think he'll get himself a few yellow cards because he's quite aggressive.
Shout out to the unluckiest player so far in the game is, or managers rather, who own Ruben Diaz, who you may remember was taken off against Bournemouth, very close to hitting passing tiers. Was left out of the starting team against Newcastle, came on after 21 minutes when Nathan Ake got injured, and I feel for those who bought Nathan Ake at the weekend. And Ruben Diaz in 69 minutes got 57 passes. It was like the same 2 weeks in a row, just missed out. I mentioned earlier, Rodri 108, Cancelo most 77. I don't have an update on Nathan Ake at the moment. It's interesting, Man City do play in this charity match tonight against Barcelona in Spain. So I'm sure nobody listening to this is forcing in early transfers. Always wait as late as you can, obviously. Shot tier 2 for Erling Haaland. I mean, he could have got 4 or 5 in the second half. The only issue with him is potential concern about minutes. There's no other concern about him at the moment. And finally, just from United, Liverpool at the weekend, Monday night, Tyrone Malacia, I thought we did really well at left back. 7.6, tier 2 tackles. Again, you're going up against Mo Salah one-on-one. We would arguably expect him to pick up a few tackles in that particular game. Interestingly, I mentioned last week about the bias towards going in possession towards the right-hand side for Liverpool, the opposite of what might be happening with Crystal Palace. Joe Gomez, 85 passes, Virgil van Dijk, 71. This has only just hit tier 2. That's despite them trailing for a long time and having 70% of the ball. I think 70% of the ball away from home and losing, you would expect Van Dijk to have a lot more than 71 passes. So again, something to keep an eye on. I wouldn't fret. Like, for those who've got Liverpool defensive assets, let's be real, right? It's Bournemouth Saturday. Get through Bournemouth and then make a decision afterwards. If you want to move on a Van Dijk for a Kane or Son, if that hits your structure on Sunday, for example, I think that's perfectly reasonable to make that sort of move. But don't panic yet. They've got Liverpool coming up. Bournemouth, at home, Newcastle at home, which might be without Callum Wilson, then Everton away, then Wolves at home. Then there's a potential escape because the Wolves game's the Saturday before they play Chelsea the following Sunday. If I had Liverpool defensive, I would certainly ideally be looking to keep for the next 4. If it's still fucked after Wolves at home, yeah, bin.
Okie dokie.
And that's a really good bin point for Liverpool defensive anyway, because after Chelsea, it's Brighton, Arsenal, Man City, West Ham. So there's more difficult fixtures coming afterwards. So I would keep faith at the moment, and bin after that Wolves game makes sense from a game perspective as well.
Okie dokie. Should we go through some questions that we've had in on Twitter, James?
Yeah, let's do that.
Quite a lot of questions on Twitter, so we should say thank you, everybody, for sending them in. If there's ones that we've already covered, I will not answer them, but... if we haven't, I will.
So is there no questions then?
Nah, there are a few.
Go on,
David Martinez talks about Neto. He's been absolute garbage so far, and I want to move him on to a cheap enabler. But is it the wrong moment as he's got Newcastle, Bournemouth and Southampton in his next 3?
Yeah, I would hold. Think of it like this as well.
For how long?
Well, I think until after the Southampton game. So you've got Newcastle at home, Bournemouth away, Southampton at home. And then on Sunday the 4th, you can move that to your enabler like Casado, for example. Brighton play Leicester that day. So there's an easy escape for you. If you want to go earlier, just go Newcastle and Bournemouth. You can obviously escape to Ndidi, for example, on the Thursday night Leicester versus Manchester United game. Doesn't make sense to bin now. So I think you're probably looking towards Ndidi on Thursday the 1st or towards Casado on Sunday the 4th.
Okay. I don't know Neto, so... there's a player that's been mentioned quite a lot in the questions, James, which is Wesley Fofana. Some people already own him. Some people are looking at him. So if you don't own him, I suppose you hold fire and figure out what's going on with his transfer. I have heard this morning that a 3rd bid was rejected. Leicester really playing hardball with Chelsea.
I'd bin him.
Okay.
Actually, I'd just bin him and go back. Purely because... he's not going to play at the weekend, whether he's a Chelsea player or a Leicester player. They're playing each other. He's not going to play. Let's say he does join Chelsea in the next 2 to 3 days, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be big money, right? It's not the sort of thing that's going to happen quickly. It might be he doesn't move till the day Leicester play Manchester United. Transfer window shuts that night, for example. So you've got in between that period, you've got like Saliba at 0.1 cheaper if you don't own. You've got Fulham at home, Villa at home. And honestly, it could be 20 points you're missing out on there and then. Even further ahead, is there any guarantee he goes straight in? Let's say they buy him on Thursday the 1st of September. Does he play West Ham at home on Sunday the 4th?
Who knows?
I don't know. But I'll see the team that day. So if he's in the team that day, I'll buy him then. That would be your point reference. And if he doesn't play by the time West Ham comes around Sunday the 4th, then it's Fulham away. After that, it's Liverpool at home. You want to dive in then? Is that your dive-in point? What I'd say is that if he's going to Chelsea, he's obviously going to play regularly with the money that they're going to spend on him. 7.5, there's little to think about. But I don't see him rushing into that team. So my advice generally, and I'd said it to the patrons at the weekend, was that just with Fofana, take a moment to consider, we obviously knew he hadn't played against Southampton on the Saturday. There were escape routes. He's not going to play in the Chelsea-Leicester game. Throw it on now. There's at least 3 games you can have of someone else. I would still be sitting there right now. Think if I didn't have Saliba, I'd definitely make that move, I think. I'd just get it done on Saturday.
Darren says he's considering moving from Nathan Ake to a Leicester United player this week to cover the captaincy, which is still a little bit of a way away. Doesn't seem too bad. What price is Nathan Ake? 8 million?
8. It's a brilliant price.
Yeah, so you can go to a lot of different options there.
We probably will know after that game tonight. We don't know what the injury status is for him.
But I'd assume that Ake is not his only City player. He's going to have captaincy coverage for City games from someone else.
Yeah, like but I mean, that's incredible value, 8 million.
It is.
And he seems to have favouritism, you would think, until Laporte's back. We're probably not expecting Laporte back till probably around about the Tottenham fixture on Saturday the 10th. And he won't get thrown straight in for Tottenham with the way Tottenham counter-attack. So you're possibly looking at Laporte not playing till around about Saturday the 17th, and that's only 1 game before the international break. So it could quickly become not into October, for example. And I think there was a beginning to, when you see Ake getting picked over Diaz for Newcastle away as well, you start thinking, oh, he's got this locked at the moment. What an incredible price that is, 8 million. but we don't know where the injury status is. If he's ruled out for a couple of weeks, he goes, as far as I'm concerned. If it looks like he's going to play, I'd arguably give myself Saturday to take the information, then move to someone on the Sunday if he's not available.
We could wipe out half of these questions, James, by discussing two players.
Go on,
they are Kevin De Bruyne
Yep.
and Erling Haaland.
Okay.
A lot of people debating whether, obviously Pep came out last week and said when we've got games 3 days apart and whatever, Erling Haaland's not going to play them all. And a lot of people are now debating whether you need Haaland or whether De Bruyne is a better choice and gives you the captaincy coverage. And a lot of people own Cancelo as a backup should De Bruyne not play, for example, as well. And I'm not too dissimilar. I think the difference this season is obviously with the likes of Salah, Son and so on moving to midfielders, your midfield slots are almost more valuable than your forward slots because you don't have as many strikers. So then do you want to give one to De Bruyne? And I think De Bruyne, I don't want to hokey-cokey him. It's a difficult one. Do you have any kind of thoughts around should people pick De Bruyne over Haaland? What's your strategy? I own Haaland, you own KDB. So we're kind of...
Yeah, I mean, Haaland could outscore KDB's 2 games in 1 game, it's worth saying. And obviously that can go the other way around as well. These guys are so explosive. I wanted De Bruyne for this particular period because I think he still plays the games for City and his record in home games is mad off the chart. If you look at this little period coming up, Palace at home, Forest at home, Villa away, Tottenham at home. I think Haaland starts 3 of them. I think KDB starts 4 of them. That would be my take. Whether Haaland misses Forest or Villa, I think it's very difficult to say at the moment, but I don't think he plays both. From the owner perspective, you want him to play Forest, don't you? But Villa, I would arguably, if I had Haaland and Haaland wasn't in the team at Forest, I'd be thinking, I'm really tempted to captain Haaland at Villa, you know. That's what I'd be thinking as an alternative to take on the Tottenham ownership against Fulham or Salah against Everton, for example. I think it's really close. Possibly comes down to what sort of manager are you as well. Do you want that explosiveness which Haaland can give, but admittedly De Bruyne can as well? Or are you happy to have the consistency of KDB where there probably will be periods where he goes a little bit quiet? I don't think there's a right or wrong answer between the two. I certainly wouldn't move from one to the other. I've got KDB right now, that's it. I've taken my path, that's where I'm on. I wouldn't move from one to the other. The home fixtures is what's tempted it for KDB because even if you look beyond the 4, looking a bit further ahead, so as I said, Palace, Forest, Tottenham, 3 of the next 4 at home. If you go further on, then they go to Wolves, then they've got Manchester United at home, and they've got Southampton at home. So actually, in City's next 7 fixtures, 5 are at home. That's what's influenced Kevin De Bruyne for me. And actually, you can escape. City play Southampton Saturday the 8th. Don't play Liverpool till currently scheduled Sunday the 16th the following week. Then they've got Arsenal away. You can escape from that Saturday. You could look at Liverpool actually go to Arsenal the next day. Not ideal, but there's an obvious...
The other difficulty is buying or adding the second one. There's no play. Where do you do it? Where do you go from Spurs to City or Liverpool to City? You just don't.
This is it, yeah. I mean, so if you're not on now, in terms of where you're coming off one of them to go to City, your next point is Sunday the 2nd, which is when they play Manchester United. It's currently scheduled for 2:00 on that Sunday. There's a small chance it could move back to the Saturday. We will know once this Champions League draw is done and stuff.
Missing quite a bit of the run.
Well, exactly.
That's why you kind of hold it out, in my opinion.
I wonder if people will look at trying to shove things, and this is possibly something to consider. If you've got Koulibaly, as an example, and you think, I'm going to Fofana in a couple of weeks anyway, if that move happens, making a move perhaps on Sunday to get, say, a Forest enabler in for someone at Guimaraes price or something, might allow you the Koulibaly to Haaland or De Bruyne, depending on your setup, on Wednesday. And I think people should look at that. So if you're sitting there now thinking, I'm in trouble, have a look and ask yourself, is there something you can manoeuvre that potentially allows you to have Haaland and De Bruyne from Wednesday night against Nottingham Forest, assuming both are in the team? I'd consider that. So look at, can I go Guimaraes down to a Forest midfielder on Sunday, for example, to open that up for a Koulibaly to force it to a De Bruyne, for example. Depends how much money you've got in the bank and stuff, right?
It does
But consider that. Consider the first move to make the second City move.
I think we're all hoping for an injury or two to kind of force our hand, aren't we? Really?
I will be looking at options to potentially, if I'm shitting myself, how am I getting a Haaland Wednesday night? Yeah.
And I'm the opposite. I'm thinking, how am I going to get De Bruyne?
It doesn't make logical sense. Think of it like this. This is where I think it's more of an issue for me. I've got De Bruyne. If I'm thinking of working in Haaland for Wednesday night, if I force it in, I probably then feel obliged to captain him. It's not to say he's going to outscore De Bruyne. And if he starts against Forest, I'm probably of the mindset thinking he doesn't play at Villa anyway. So is it worth it? I think it's more one for Haaland owners to potentially look at how they might get De Bruyne. I think those of us who've gone without probably are going to suffer this.
Yep. Luke Sanderson, I'm struggling to figure out the best transfer strategy. My team seems fine. I got 91 points this week, which is decent. And I feel like I'm trying to force a transfer. Do you have a better idea now we're a few weeks in to maximise transfers? The reason I asked Luke's questions because it's my question, really. No, I haven't got a burner profile. It's actually Luke. But when I spoke to you about the
bet
Raya,
you got loads of burner accounts, mate.
When I spoke to you about the Raya to Sanchez move, it felt like a forced move. And the
don't do that move, mate.
I'm not going to. The more I look at the planner and the harder it is, like I can see myself using only 5 transfers in the next 7 or 8 weeks. But then with 50 transfers, you're almost worried that will I end up in a situation post World Cup where I have too many transfers?
I've made 5. I've wasted a few of them already. Which admittedly, obviously having 50 rather than 40 and only one overhaul period meant that, taking a couple of early punts, which haven't worked for me, is absolutely fine and reasonable. But if you're sitting there and you've got 50 transfers and think, I haven't made any. Good. Sit there and think I haven't made any. It means you're probably in a good, strong position. We spoke about this last week. It's exactly the same now. You are in a stronger position than me. You've made 4 less transfers and you're about 20 points behind me. Nothing has changed. You do not need to force shit for the sake of forcing shit. I would not be making goalkeeper 3-for-1s unless it's obvious captaincies. Okay. If you went, for example, let's just say, I give an example. If you were going to go Dean Henderson that night, Forest are playing Leeds, and you go, I'm captain Henderson against Leeds, and I'm captain Henderson against Fulham. Crack on, by all means. There's a fair chance with that as well, you'll end up staying on longer as well. But you could. Effective 4-for-0, I take the 2 games, bang, I'm off, done. I have no problem with that. But Raya to Sanchez, either or, aren't they, really, at the moment? So, no, I'd be leaving that.
Joe, I'm a Batman. What are your thoughts on fighting against Salah by moving him onto Son or Kane on Sunday and going without for a few weeks, which is my plan at the moment? But it means I'll end up probably going without Salah. I don't see a particular reason to want to maybe get him back until after the City game, which is...
Yeah, I'm in a little bit of disagreement. Like I said, I think Saturday the 3rd away to Everton is perfectly reasonable. I think we can look at it on paper and go, yeah, Kane/Son at home to Fulham, but there might be a little bit of doubt on that. Similarly, might be a little bit of doubt on Salah, but then at least I'll know if he's in the team or not. That's a guarantee. And I think the following weekend, like I said, City and Tottenham are playing each other. Chelsea go to Fulham. Salah at home to Wolves seems perfectly reasonable. It's not a brilliant fixture, but I'd probably be looking to move from there, I think. So at the moment, he's staying for me. That's the plan. I don't intend to move Mo Salah to Kane or Son on Sunday.
But then if I've got a 2 captaincies, Forest and Fulham out of Son, it's a 5-for-2, and then go back to him for the Wolves game when you play City.
Why you're not going back to Saturday?
Yeah, but you're going to... I mean, the difficulty is you've got a good record against City.
Well, there's that, yeah.
So it's not even like you can say Spurs.
We've just spoken about. We just spoke about leaving Liverpool after that Wolves fixture, so we're not going back for that Wolves fixture. So make a choice. I think you make a choice. If you come off on Sunday, you're dealing with no Salah, Newcastle, Everton, Wolves. That's fine if that's what you decide to do. It's probably not for me because you could look at it. You look at the immediate and go, "Oh yeah, Kane's Son, absolute definite captaincy on Sunday, agreement." But I might want to captain Salah against Everton and Wolves. And I might not be captain Kane or Son again. So, Saturday the 10th, once you get after Fulham, there's every chance you're still going to be sitting there with Kane or Son going to Man City. And yeah, Suj is right. We do have a great record at Manchester City, but it's not ideal. And I think you'll be wanting to come off Tottenham assets probably the following day or the Sunday afterwards. Ironically, it could be you're looking at Kane or Son back to Salah when Liverpool play Chelsea on Sunday the 18th. Is a possibility. Or you just hold through. I'm probably going without, but it will be dependent on injury status and whatnot. So like I said, I'm going to have a play around that once the Champions League draw is done. I think that's so important to try and get an understanding for not this weekend, but the weekend after, who might get rested and who might not. We haven't spoke about Salah being rested at Everton. And one of the reasons for that at the moment would be it feels like they haven't got the depth. It's not beyond. If Liverpool have got, they could get Real Madrid, Paris Saint-Germain on that Tuesday night in the Champions League after Everton. It's not beyond reason that Klopp looks at it, and he's left Salah out of Merseyside derbies before and goes, do you know what? Yeah, I'm going to play Carvalho, for example. Núñez is back for that as well, isn't he? For the Everton game. So it's not impossible that Salah could be left out. So I think the Champions League draw is really important. Get your head around understanding days and dates and looking ahead and find your problem fixtures for players. And they're all going to have them. I'm fairly sure that out of all the premiums, none of them's going to play every single game. And honestly, even Harry Kane, at some point there's going to be a break. I'm sure of it. And that Fulham game to me looks absolutely ripe for it, actually.
And the last question of the show we give to Ian Parron, who says, with only 10 players having 20% plus ownership, do you expect the template to narrow or widen over the next few weeks as managers get trigger happy firing out non-performing players in their team?
I think the further we get, the more information we should have, right? And I think this whole Saturday Champions League, Sunday Europa League stuff means that it's going to be way more difficult to make the moves between the premiums. So we are likely to get a more stuck on template, I think.
It's going to narrow.
And I think the enablers will become more and more obvious. I'm sure, people don't have Paulinho, probably, how am I getting in there and stuff like, because he looks like the one at the moment. I wouldn't, again, like last week, I wouldn't force it in at the moment. But yes, I think we will head closer and closer towards a template, yes.
It's interesting, Ian's screenshotted also the gap in points at the moment. Let's disregard the people that are in the top 100, but 100 is 309 points. But top 500, 291, top 1,000, 283, and 10,000, which is roughly where I'm at, 253. So from 10,000 to 1,000 is 30 points. It's one banging captaincy. So it's still very tight in the spread of points at the moment from that kind of perspective.
Honestly, I wouldn't even, we talk about it for the sake of the podcast, but I wouldn't even really look at a leaderboard at the moment. It's irrelevant. You know there are going to be teams in the top 100 who's done 15 odd transfers or so. I think in terms of names in the top 100 at the moment, there's a couple of recognisables that have started really well, but not many. What you're competing with right now is not the top 1,000. It's the people that will become the top 1,000. We're not there yet.
We are not, but we will, and then we're going to win £50,000, and then we're going to get yachts, and we're going to be partying in Saint-Tropez. So,
Fucking yacht you buying? You ain't even getting a Bullseye speedboat with that.
We'll hire one for the weekend and pretend that we're ballers, James. We'll pretend that we are. Listeners, thank you so much for joining us for Fantasy Sky.
Literally no idea why you think I'm sharing with you.
What, the yacht?
I said I'd share with you last year. I ain't promised you fuck all this year, mate.
You're not going to win this year, so I'm not worried. Listeners, thank you for joining us. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you are listening to the podcast. You'll get notified as soon as next episodes go live. Tomorrow, James, you have Clash of the Correspondents with...
Brentford versus Everton with Tom Med and Sean Norton. Worth listening just to hear Tom Med, who loves Tony, not be able to get Tony in his FPL team. Brilliant.
And Friday, of course, live stream Q&A.
Yes.
Before the weekend's deadlines. Thank you for all of your support. If you do want to support the show and join our community on Slack, as well as the prize leagues and other stuff that we have going on, it's patreon.com/Planet FPL. We'd love to have you over there. Other than that, though, stay safe and look after yourselves. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Play it your way. Good luck this week. Cue music, please, man child.